Where else will we be? Heathcote Park Raceway. It is absolutely freezing, I've got to tell you. That's why I got the beanie on. Still got the shorts on and t-shirt because I have to put the race gear on, but it was 2 degrees this morning when I woke up at 7 a.m. and left. So yeah, super cold. When I got here, I think it was still 10, which meant the RX7 had a real fun time starting. Eventually just gave it a bit of carby cleaner down the throat of it. It was enough to kick it straight over and then, yeah, get sorted. But I think the post-fuel enrichment on the 10 degrees map might need a bit of work, but yeah, anyway, let's get racing. Enough of this chit chat. Let's get into the action. Also, before I forget, we are probably not, I'm not probably going to do full quarter mile rips today. I really want to sort the tune out, and the front end of the track is, you know, if it's not working the front end, it's not going to work in the back end. So we're going to do some 8 mile, 660 foot passes and just work on the short track stuff, because if you don't go fast in the short track, there's no use trying to pile it on the back half and trying to recover it, because it just won't happen. So we'll try some short track stuff and get it all started. All right, let's get rolling. That's the main thing. We just PB'd in the 60 foot, went 131. So I actually took a fair bit of power out of the start line because I just wanted to get out of it, so out of the hole a bit. So I'm pretty confident they're running in the 125s or something with a little bit more power into it. But time to look at the tune up and get back out there. One, 2, 7, 9, 60 foot in the right lane that apparently no one can go down at all, and radials definitely don't bother, so that's pretty good. And then same old misfire nonsense. So have a look at some data and see how close we were, but pretty quick out of the hole. I think that'll about do us for today. Nitrous bottle is completely empty, so no use progressing any further. I don't know if we're getting anywhere, but oh well. Onwards and upwards. Right, so that was the weekend that was. We had 4 passes all right, and here's the really short summary of what happened there. First pass, well, we obviously had heavy misfire, as you can see, as we've sort of had over the last couple of meets as well. Second pass, what happened was we hit a safe mode safety as soon as we launched, which cut the power to the car straight away. We backed up. I said we. Why do I keep saying we? I backed up. Launched again, and it took off, but it coughed a few times because it was out of fuel. Now, I remade the fuel cell, and I've lowered the capacity of that fuel cell because I've been checking to see if the fuel cell was the problem, so we need to remake it, made it a bit smaller. And I'd also filled it to about 80% volume because I wanted to make sure the fuel pump was okay. So we just essentially ran out of fuel after doing a burnout, one whole launch, and then the second launch, we ran out of fuel, so whatever it is, what it is. Third pass, we had boost controller issue. Now, I've had this a couple of times as well. I've had the boost controllers are really, really sensitive. They open small micromillimeter amounts to let air in and out, and the decrease solenoid had some swarf stuck in it. I have to take everything apart and really investigate where this is coming from. This is about the third or fourth time it's actually happened, so I'm not sure where it's coming from. Basically, it jams the decrease solenoid open, and it means that even though the air's coming in, the increase solenoid's on, the decrease solenoid's permanently on as well, so I don't get the boost, and we had like less than 20 pound of boost or something for that pass, so a bit of a bust there. And the last pass, I could tell already that the nitrous was running out. Last pass, we had less than 300 PSI bottle pressure in the thing, and there was no nitrous left basically in the bottle, so I couldn't do a burnout, and then I couldn't launch the car properly. So I think we hit boost, you know, 3.5, 4 seconds into the run, and then it took off, and it actually revved pretty clean through first gear and hit the limiter in first gear, and then in second gear, and that it just misbehaved a little bit. Overall, may look like a total schmozzle of a weekend, but it was actually good. I got to finally confirm what I wanted to confirm, and now finally it means I can finally go to the dyno. So it's great. So what do I need to confirm? Well, essentially I needed to make sure that the fuel pump was still okay, and that the fuel cell was the issue from 2 meets ago. So you remember maybe 2 meets ago, if you've been following along, we had that really fast launch, and then the car stopped where it lean popped because of fuel starvation. Now, I didn't know if that was a fuel pump problem or if it was the fuel cell design problem. So I redesigned the fuel cell. We went out about 3 months ago with the new fuel cell, and unfortunately it was a really hot day. Racing started a bit later, and we were a bit delayed as well. And by the time we got racing on the track, the surface had turned into bubblegum, and we just couldn't leave the line under any decent horsepower, which meant there was no extreme acceleration G-force to test the fuel sloshing around in the fuel cell. I think that day we ran a best of like a 148 60 foot, just chirping the tyres and that, and you know, some of the other 60s were even worse than that. So we couldn't confirm the 60 foot, which is all I've been wanting to do before I go back to the dyno. So the best thing about this weekend is we went a 127 60 foot. We also went a 130, I think, 60 foot. And fuel pressure in the data is rock solid across the board. So that means that the fuel cell was definitely the issue last time, and we've rectified that. The reason why I didn't go to the dyno already without testing that is because this fuel pump's not made anymore, which means if we actually went to the dyno, fixed everything, everything was great, went to the track, and then found out that the fuel pump was actually a problem, we put a new fuel pump on, a mechanical fuel pump that is driven by a certain ratio. All the fuel pumps that are on the market these days for rotaries actually drive at a fairly different ratio to what this one does. So that would mean that it would run at a different fuel pressure over an RPM rate. And anyone that knows anything about EFI systems, fuel pressure dictates how much flow those injectors have. So we would have gone to the dyno potentially, sorted out everything, and then gone racing, found the fuel pump was a problem, put a new fuel pump on it, and our tune-up would be totally ruined, and we'd have to go back to the dyno again, essentially. So people questioning like why we wouldn't have just gone to the dyno already. That is the core reason why we have not gone to the dyno. So, you know, people obviously know everything and, oh, you should do this, should do that. Don't know everything. Maybe if you'd actually asked why we hadn't in a polite manner, we would have answered the question for you, but that is the reason why we had not taken the car to the dyno, and now we definitely can. So I know a lot of people see the misfiring and just go, oh, your tune-up is blah, 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 whatever, and this, why, just sort it out, oh, you know, blah, 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 whatever. When the car went 160 mile an hour, the tune-up that's in it now is basically less than 1% different than what it was then. So it's very hard to just say it's a tune-up or a fuel-related or whatever issue. You know, we're starting to run, you know, I was pushing 43 pound of boost into it on the weekend, and we've seen the misfire issue get worse and worse the more boost I put into it. And with the fueling the same as what it was when we ran sort of like low 30s when it went 160 mile an hour, I'm starting almost to lean on the side of potentially it's a spark related issue. So it could be, something to do with the gap we're running on the spark plugs. It could be to do with one of our ignition leads. It could be to do with one of our coil packs or whatever. These are older used coil packs. So I might get 2 new coils and just see if they're right. I'm probably going to get 4 new ignition leads made just so I can count that out as well. But I'm not convinced that this is actually a fuel tuning related issue, because it through all the data, it seems to have always been on the rear rotor as well. So, you know, the fuel injectors flow the same. I've had them on the flow bench. The tune-up's the same as when it went sort of 160, but now all of a sudden, since then, it's been misfiring its head off and carrying on. Early days, I know it was definitely a fuel sort of related issue, because after the dyno, you know, we had a few, I added more fuel to be safe at the track, and we sort of chased adding that fuel back. And then by the time we went to the meet, was only our 3rd meet, and we went 106 mile an hour. And then ever since then, we've just been plagued with little gremlins, the fuel cell problem, and now the extreme misfire problem with more boost. So a few other things maybe to test as well. We just run a pretty affordable methanol fuel. A lot of other people run more expensive, like VPM1. So, you know, we were contacted by someone that said they had issues with other kinds of methanol, and they switched to VPM1, and all their problems went away all of a sudden. Their tune-up was nice and crisp and clean. They were plagued with misfire problems with oil. So that could be a thing. That's definitely something we may look at doing on the dyno. So we may get some VPM1, may get methanol from like Coogee, some from maybe like Cheetah, and then even some Sunoco, and just maybe back to back those fuels after the tune-up's like crisp, and then see if what the tune-up looks like, and if EGTs change, or what it sounds like, what power they make, and if there's actually any differences between those fuels. Because while methanol fumes will burn your eyes, the price of M1 VP alone is enough to bring tears to your eyes as well. So unless there's a massive difference in the car, how it runs and tune-up and everything, it's definitely something that I'd be more than happy to sort of back away from, because it is an expensive fuel, that's for sure. Now, one thing I've been band-aiding over is the front rotor housing has copped a beating twice now. Basically, it copped it earlier on, and then it copped it also when it had that fuel cell problem. The rear rotor's always been fine, nothing, but I've had heat on the apex seals twice now in the front. Not much heat, just a bit, and it's still enough that the engine starts and runs fine, and it's been okay, but there's just some light chattering marks, and that's why anyone that's been to Heathcote will have noticed that this car is incredibly hard to start when it's hot, which is, any RX7 owner knows, it's related to engine compression basically. So rear rotor compression tests fine. Front rotor actually compression tests okay-ish. They're all even, it's just that it's low. So it's got new apex seals in there, but there's bruises and marks on the housing that basically, I've been hoping that it's going to just come good through running. If it was a street car, I'd go and drive it for 3 hours and beat on it, and it probably would be okay, but it's just not coming good. So always had planned to put a new front housing anyway, so we'll get that in. That'll refresh the engine, still reuse all the same stuff that's in there already, because all that stuff's okay. But yeah, I'm going to do that. And the second thing is also I'm going to put an idle air control valve in it. So with the semi-PP and the no vacuum basically from that, big throttle body, and also the automatic transmission, sort of always robbing Peter to pay Paul in terms of idle speed. So when I start this car off the key, so to speak, I don't need any throttle input. I've got the throttle blade open a bit, and it'll cold idle at about 2000 RPM. And as it warms up and comes up into temperature, it'll start idling in park at about 2600 RPM. Now, because the converter is a little bit tight, which is how we want it, because we want a mile an hour on the back end of the track, when you put it in gear, it pulls the engine down significantly, like close to 1600 RPM. So all of a sudden now we're idling at 1000 RPM with no vacuum, semi-PP, and it's really a little bit sort of unhappy even around then. It can be, when you snap off the throttle after doing a burnout, even at that low RPM, it can almost just stall. So I'm going to put an idle air control valve on this thing to properly manage idle speed, basically. So, if I can get the the warm idle to be at, you know, say around 2100 RPM, and then when it clicks into gear, it's a more manageable RPM speed. I think it'd be much better all around for how, you know, how the whole setup works, because that really fast idle, I'm almost like left foot braking at the moment with the low comp sort of in that front rotor when it's hot, just to manage stuff at the moment. But I've been band-aiding it just because, like I said, all they wanted to do was 60 foot to confirm that that fuel pumps are right, and now we've done that, so now we can just move on. All right, so there's not a heap to take out of the weekend, I guess, but what it definitely took out was that we ran the 127 60 foot, and there's a heap left in it. The track was awesome, as always. Big thank you to Lance and his team out there at Heathcote Park Raceway. That track was killer. Now, also, I ran that 127 60 foot in the right lane. That's the lane that everyone that's got a set of radials says you can't go down. Anyone with a fast car says you can't go down. Well, I went down that, and I ran a cranky sort of 6.0 to half track, which realistically, you know, it's sort of a low 9. So if you're running slower than a 127 60 foot, and you're running slower than a 9-second pass, and you're sitting in the left-hand lane with everyone else that's sitting in the left-hand lane, just go in the right-hand lane. You know, the more people do passes in the right-hand lane, the better it's always going to be too. Just give it a try. What you'll find is that you'll probably get more passes because there's not many people in the right-hand lane, so you'll actually get to do more passes. And also, everyone will get more passes. So the actual really fast cars, cars that are running maybe 7s or mid-8s or low 8s or whatever in the left lane, they'll get to do more passes as well. So yeah, just I think there's still a stigma of the right lane from the old days before the track got resurfaced that it's no good or something. But Holden Nationals, the right lane was killer. Private test days, right lane's been killer. You know, if anything, the left lane actually cops too much rubber from everyone racing, and over a day can actually deteriorate. So hey, get in the right lane. It looks like it's the business. So also, I just want to give a huge shout out to everyone that come up to me at the racetrack and says g'day and how much they love the car and they love the RX4. Promise I'll get back to the RX4 soon. I've been really busy of late, so we'll get back into that project soon. But get heaps of people coming over and loving the car and loving rotaries and just chatting about them and that. Always more than happy to answer anyone's questions and that, and let, you know, people ask permission to take photos of the car. You don't need to ask permission to take photo. You want to look at anything in the car, ask any questions, please come up. Thanks for everyone. Also, I was quite overwhelmed with the amount of people actually messaged me on Monday and even Tuesday and that too, and Sunday night about their experiences with rotaries and methadol and stuff like that, races, like actual races, supporting other races and that. So blown away by that support. Really appreciate it. Yeah, really love all the positive support there from those people. So also thanks to Gleno for coming out and the Gem Racing crew. They are my film crew at the start line, so that really helps because without them, I've got no one sort of to film the outside of the car, which is basically the start of this video and that. So big thanks to those guys for filming on the start line. Appreciate it. It's always good to look at start line video also as a backup to your data to look at what's going on there. So appreciate that. Best of luck at Jamboree. I guess now I've got to get back into tearing apart this engine to pull it out of the car, ripping it apart, and then getting ready for that housing to arrive. I ordered it before I was racing last weekend because I knew what I wanted to do and I hoped what had happened with the 127 60 foot would happen. So that should be here any day. I can get disassembling this right now, ready to reassemble it, put it straight back in the car, and then, you know, I've got to get some more methanol. So if you've got 20 litres of M1, if you've got 20 litres of Coogee, if you've got 20 litres of Cheetah and Sunoco or whatever, that I could just, maybe you've got a 205 and I could just buy 20 litres off you for whatever price, let me know because I'd be really interested to do that, and I would be genuinely interested to do this back to back on the dyno. So if you've got one of those 4 sort of common methanol fuels, let me know, and yeah, I'll tee something up and I'll come and get 20 litres off you. That'd be appreciated. Until then, thanks for the support. Thanks for everything. Thanks for keeping on and following here. And until then, I'll see you next time. Hello. Testicles. 1, 2, 3. Hello and welcome to today's proceedings. And whatever type of stuff.